Alright guys, this is section 1-2 on numbers and expressions. Let's get started. And so important here is some of the vocabulary, and you'll see on page 32 where it says numerical expressions. So I just want to point that out to you. A numerical expression would be, this is an example, 5 plus 7. And then another expression you can call is called an algebraic expression, and that would just be where you have variables inside of it. So they're both called expressions because it's having adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing, but it doesn't have an equal sign. An equal sign, if there was that included, then you would call that an equation. All right, next topic. And next vocabulary term is the word evaluate. And so when you would evaluate an expression, you actually find its numeric value. So you find the value, you find the number of whatever the answer is. And then you also have what's called order of operations. And this is order of operations. It's called PEMDAS. Parentheses for P, E for exponents, M for multiply, D for divide, A for addition, and S for subtract. And so part of this, what's included is when we do parentheses, it's the order which we do some of these operations. We do parentheses first, and then what's neat to know about this is in parentheses, you have to follow PEMDAS inside the parentheses. So it's all included when you do P. So you can run all the way through PEMDAS before you even get to E, and then the rest of the MDAS for the rest of the problem. All right. But after you do any parentheses that there are, you go to exponents, which would be little 2's or little 3's or other numbers that are raised up like this 2 is. And then the M and D, that's step 3. You do both at the same time. Whichever comes first is what you do. So instead of writing multiply then divide, you could even think of this as divide then multiply, because sometimes you divide first. And the same thing with step 4, which is addition and subtraction. Those are on the same step also. So you could actually do subtraction before addition as long as you follow just going left to right, whichever A or S comes first, then you're doing it correctly. Let's continue. Alright, so here we have example 1A, which is 18 divided by 3 times 2. Notice that there's no parentheses and there's no exponents, so we move straight to step 3, which is multiply and divide. Alright, so again, we do MD or DM, doesn't matter. We do whichever one comes first. So as you read it, it says 18 divided by 3 first, so we do that. And then we drop everything else down. Notice that I underlined the step that I did. And then obviously you only have 6 times 2 that's left. So we're still on the MD step. We never actually end up getting to the AS, addition and subtraction. So the answer is 12. Next example is 1B. And this example is 6 parentheses 2 plus 9. Parentheses minus 3 times 8. And first of all, just to make sure everybody knows, anytime a number or letter is written right beside parentheses, it actually means to multiply, so that's going to be important. We're going to start with PEMDAS again. So we do have a P for parentheses. So we're going to do 2 plus 9. On the next line, when I write this, this basically 2 plus 9 is obviously 11. Make sure you don't multiply there on accident. And then, so 6 times 11 minus 3 times 8. So I keep the parentheses on there, but basically it still just says 6 times 11. So there's nothing else inside the parentheses to do, which is step P. So I move on to E, and there are no exponents. And so I move on to step number 3. Step 3 is MD, multiply or divide. As I go from left to right, I do any multiply or divide that I see. And then I write down everything else. Again, I'm still on multiply or divide, so I actually kind of skip all the way through there. 66 minus 3 times 8 is 24. And now, as you can see, I'm done with any multiply or divide, so I go into step 4, which is A or S or A. And the only step left is to subtract these, and I get 42. Make sure you write that out. If you're not sure, can't do that in your head, just write it over on the side, and you get your answer 42. All right, next example. All right, so the next example is 1C. This is 4 bracket parentheses 15 minus 9 parentheses plus 8 parentheses 2. All right, then you have parentheses and a bracket. So we're going to follow PEMDAS again. We're doing P first, and then we need to know that the brackets are also parentheses. So when we do P, we start inside the furthest outermost bracket possible. So in this case, it would be the whole thing. So we're going to do this rectangle that I just created first. And then inside, what we got to remember is you do parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract inside of parentheses also. So in here, 15 minus 9 plus 8 times 2, I've got to continue to do parentheses. And then I'm going to drop down to the next line here. 15 minus 9 is 6. So now that just says 6 plus 8. And that's times 2, even though they're written right beside each other. You should have learned that from the other one. So now it says 6 plus 8 times 2. I still follow parentheses and then PEMDAS as the rest of it. But here we've got 8 times 2. Now, the 2 is in parentheses, but it is not anything that we can do because it's already simplified. So we go on to exponents, and there are none. We go on to multiply, divide, and the first multiplier divide that I see is 8 times 2. So go to my next line, 4 bracket 6 plus, and then I know that 8 times 2 is 16. And then I continue with my bracket. Parentheses from the 2 are gone. I'm still in the bracket. For my parentheses, 6 plus 16 is 22. So I'm done with parentheses. There's nothing else to do in there. So I go to exponents. There are no exponents. Step 3 is multiply or divide. Here I'm at 4 times 22, which is 88. That is the answer for 1C. And 1D, the example, is 53 plus 15 over 17 minus 13. And the first thing I want you to do is put parentheses around the top and parentheses around the bottom. Because anytime you see this, the top is separate than the bottom. You can think of those both as having parentheses around them. So I'm going to solve this sideways. We can do 53 plus 15, which is 68. And then we can do 17 minus 13, which is 4. And now we have, so we're done with parentheses. We go on to exponents. There are no exponents for this. And then we go on to multiply or divide. That is step 3. And here we see division, 68 divided by 4, which goes 17 times. And 17 is our answer for 1D. Let's move on. All right, example 2, you have to write a numerical expression for each verbal phrase. And part A says the product of 8 and 7. And so you're not really multiplying that. It's just telling you to write out what this means. Product means multiply. And so what you would write for a numerical expression is 8 times 7. Expression does not have an equal sign. And then for the other one, we're talking about the difference. Difference means subtract, so I put that where the word and is, just like I did multiply where and was. The difference of 9 and 3, we write 9 minus 3. You're not actually solving it here. All they're wanting you to do is write the expression that represents the wording. All right, and example 3 says a cell phone company charges $20 per month and 10 cents for each call made or received. Write and then evaluate an expression to find the cost for 44 calls during 1 month. So I wrote it out what that looks like. $20 for the month up front, so you have your 20, and then you're going to add 10 cents for every call, so it becomes 10 cents times 44, since there's 44 calls. All right, so what I have done there is wrote the expression. That is the first answer. 20 plus 0.10 times 44. That is part one. But it also said to write and evaluate the expression. So evaluate means I'm going to solve this. So using PEMDAS, there are no parentheses, there are no exponents. I go to multiply, divide, step 3. So there's multiplication here. If I multiply 0.10 times 44, I get 4.4. And then I drop down everything else. All right, if you're not sure what that is, 44 times 0.1, if you multiply it out, which you should do if you don't know, you get 4.4. And then I'm going to add these two at the end. Make sure you line up your decimals. I end up with 24.4. Again, if you don't know that, make sure you line it up over here on the side. Alright, don't put the 4 under the 0 and the other 4 under the 2. Alright, that is it. Good luck.